Kia ora, good evening. A 26-year-old Te Ana woman is in a critical condition in a Tahitian hospital following her collapse after winning the Oceania 5,000-metre track walk race. Leslie Cantwell is in Tahiti competing at the Oceania Area Track and Field Championships and had just finished racing when she felt unwell. Athletics New Zealand's high-performance medical support staff spoke with the hospital today, but details of her condition are not known. Cantwell is New Zealand's quickest walker and mother of a 3-year-old daughter. Torrential downpours over the weekend that saw parts of the region receive up to half their monthly rain in one day caused tens of thousands of dollars in damage. Southland District Council Roading Manager Joe Burke says early indications are that the effects are not as bad as flooding in January, but says repairs are needed where water erosion has undermined embankments on some roads. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Gore District Council says around half a dozen gravel roads closed yesterday will require grading due to damage from flooding. Invercargill City reported no major damage aside from street sump blockages and minor flooding that caused some road closures close to the city. Another Invercargill building has been vacated following earthquake concerns. The issue of building standards and earthquake hazards is seeing many buildings in the south being examined. Sarah Bedford explains.
Concerns around earthquake risk have forced the Invercargill Salvation Army to vacate its food bank premises on Tay Street. Captain Perry Bray says the food bank was relocated to the Salvation Army's Leven Street premises last week following an assessment of the building.
It's come down as a D rating, I think it is, from memory, which means that basically it's susceptible to earthquake damage if one was to occur. And yeah, we've just had to move out as soon as possible, basically, for the people's safety.
It's the second building the Salvation Army has had to evacuate in the city, with an engineer's report last year finding the building, which housed a men's accommodation service, posed a serious earthquake risk. Captain Perry says there are some positives in the move.
Now everything's in one location, as the only part that's not would be the church side of things, which has meant that all the office space and everything has moved across as well, just to make things easier all round. And of course we've got the office space available here to use, so it's made it quite an easy move all in all.
The future of the vacant building is not yet known.
That's yet to be determined. It's basically a case of where the Salvation Army is going, what it is that we've got to do locally, identify places where we can look at putting a one-stop shop sort of thing, or is it a case of we have two different locations, and that's decisions that we have some input into, but we just put it up the line and they make the final call. So that's where things are at the moment, just waiting on the decisions to be made.
Captain Annette Bray says the move has required plenty of work.
It means quite a big kind of juggle around of shelving and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of hard work trying to fit into what was in a whole building into just a few rooms. So that's been a big thing for us. And also it just means relocating, and so people getting to know where we are. We thought it would take a while, but actually it's not. You know, people have worked out where we are reasonably easily, but we still have people who are wanting to donate stuff to us that are a little bit confused as to where to go.
The New Zealand Fire Service is also looking at earthquake standards, examining buildings in Southland as part of a national seismic and maintenance review. Southland Area Manager Bruce Stubbs says assessments will take some time, and he's not yet sure what it will mean for the region's fire stations.
I haven't seen the results of the report, so they're kept at national headquarters, and they'll decide and prioritise what needs to happen. So as far as I'm aware, they're pretty good, but there will be some buildings that we need to potentially have a look at.
It is known that work is needed on the training building, which is attached to the tower at the Invercargill Fire Station.
At the moment, we're not using it because there's some structural issues around it. So they are connected, but the tower's still good, but it's the building at the bottom. So part of the assessment that we will do in Invercargill, that is being done in Invercargill, will be what we do with that building, whether we bulldoze it, start again, or re-strengthen it.
He says decisions around prioritisation and what work is required at the country's hundreds of fire stations is being made at a national level, and this will mean Southland may have to wait its turn for any work that's needed. Sarah Bedford, South Today News.
Around 1,800 homes a month are having repairs completed through the Canterbury Home Repair Program, which is soon expected to hit the halfway mark. Around 80,000 Canterbury homes have suffered damage following the devastating quakes which hit the region. So far, around 38,000 of these have been repaired. The Earthquake Commission aims to repair properties with the most structural damage by the end of the year, with all repairs to be completed by the end of 2015. The EQC has paid out more than $5.5 billion in building, land and consent claims to date. Stay with us after the break, why Southland is about to play a critical role in a European Space Agency launch. Welcome back. Southland will tomorrow play a critical role in a European Space Agency launch. Just before 10 a.m, an Ariane 5 rocket will be launched at Kourou, and around an hour later it will pass over a small tracking station near Invercargill. The Awarua tracking station plays an important role as it sits below the trajectory where the spacecraft and rocket separate. It will be the fourth time the station's played a role in monitoring an ATV launch. The countdown to the launch has already begun, and for the 3 technicians at the station, it's a long night ahead.
Tonight, well, in the early part we'll do some slaving tests with Kourou and some more tests, and then we'll go into a waiting period until the launch.
So how important is all this testing tonight, and why do you do it?
It's very important. The main thing is that if we should lose the spacecraft, they send us slaving data to reacquire it, and we have to make absolutely sure that that data is faultless so that we will acquire it. It's never been necessary. We've always managed to track it perfectly on our own, but you never know what could go wrong. So,
Why is it the second to last Ariane 5 that'll be sent up?
Well, the program was for 5 ATVs to be launched, and this is number 4. And this is a very special one. It carries 500 kilograms more payload than any of the others, so it's the heaviest one so far. Yes, and it's called Albert Einstein.
Now, Awarua plays a very crucial role in this launch tomorrow. Can you explain what that role is?
This is above here is where the actual spacecraft and the rocket separate from one another. So they have to make absolutely sure that it actually did happen, or else the whole business will crash into the space station. So yes, this is the most critical part of the launch, I think, to make sure that it separates properly.
A report on New Zealand by the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development suggests risks to growth include an overvalued exchange rate and high private debt. The biannual report shows that New Zealand's low productivity and income inequalities are higher than the OECD average, and identified changes that could reduce inequalities and bolster growth. Suggestions include introducing bank deposit insurance to limit depositors' losses and introduction of a capital gains tax to reduce speculative investment in housing. The OECD report also recommends raising the age of government pension entitlement and investing more resources into educating school children who are failing. The OECD is an international economic research and discussion organisation that provides statistical comparisons. Legislation which will allow the establishment of charter schools passed in Parliament last night. The Education Amendment Bill passed its 3rd reading last night, with the legislation creating the legal framework needed for partnership schools. Partnership schools will have sponsors that the Minister of Education will approve to operate the school. Education Minister Hekia Parata says it provides a new approach to making the education system work for children. Teachers Union NZEI has criticised the bill, saying it allows private companies to employ unregistered and unqualified teachers and to make a profit at the expense of children's learning. A volunteer shortage is adding to the pressure at the Southland SPCA shelter. The shelter currently has around half the number of volunteers needed to help care for animals. Shelter manager Mary Bradley says volunteer numbers are always a problem in winter and over long weekends. Volunteers play an important role in feeding and caring for the animals at these times. She's hoping people will come forward to lend a hand and take the pressure off those who are already helping.
It puts a lot of pressure on. The ones that do come down here are staying longer. We try and keep the weekend staff just doing 2 or 3 hours if we can. And then there's jobs not done because they're just not here all day to do it, and due to the lack of people. Yeah.
What impact does that have for the animals?
Hopefully not too much for them. That's the main reason we're here, is for the animals. But other jobs aren't getting done, washing, food bowls, litter trays, so we're behind on the Monday when we come in.
Is it an ongoing problem or is this a new thing?
I think it happens every year. It's not the nicest place to work in the winter, I'll agree. But we've still got the animals, we've got to care for them. And the more help, the lighter the workload.
Now, what kind of volunteers are you after?
Sensible people, ones that can come down, just slot in. It's not rocket science, but there are procedures that need to be followed. So vet nurses would be great if they came down and just did our sick bay area. Would be fantastic.
And that's it from news. Coming up in sport, Sharks coach Paul Henare on his appointment as Breakers assistant coach. That's after the weather next. From the news team, good night.